we're going to cast ourselves into the realm of the hypothetical now. We're going to give each of our panelists a time machine that they can go back to their younger selves and give some sexual advice or some kink advice, some advice that they would like that person to know. And whether that's about self-confidence or whether it's about anything else, I think it'll be interesting to play this little mind experiment. So I'm going to bring everybody back on here, and let's start with Kevin. Kevin, here is your time machine. And if I could ask you to use it to go back and talk to little Kevin, what age would you go back to, and what would you tell him?
Oh, I would probably go back to coming to New York when I was 18, because I was raring to go. I mean, I was that first week in New York City in 1988, I was in Central Park, at 3:00 in the morning, so I was already living dangerously week one. I think that I will give the advice to not be so self-conscious about, to realize that it was exactly what Paul was saying earlier, to realize that everyone has social anxiety. Everyone's worried, oh my gosh, how good do I look? How are people impressed with me? To really kind of try to let go of that and kind of really enjoy, just as much as I was enjoying the physical exploration of sex back then, to learn to do what I'm doing more now in my 50s, which is to kind of enjoy the conversation and intimacy and exploration of off the beaten path stuff, of the more kinky stuff that comes out of, oh, what are you interested in? And might I like to try that? And, that sort of creativity around sex play. I would say that I would want to encourage myself to realize, you can easily fall into ruts. And so whenever you feel like you are falling into a rut or doing the same thing over and over, just remember, you can always try dating or sleeping with a totally different type of person than you're used to, or try a total, like something like sex sober as opposed to sex, drunk or whatever it might be. Always kind of be pushing your limits and trying new things in order to attempt to, just always be evolving and always discovering new things. To see it as a kind of psychological adventure, that you're always off on finding new parts of yourself.
Yeah. It makes me wonder, and I want to throw this to everybody else that we're going to give the time machine to as well. I think 18-year-olds, and probably all of us at any age, are not super well known for taking advice from elders. So I think in addition to hearing this advice from your older self, how would you get yourself to listen? To believe, like would your 18-year-old self have said, okay, I will try that, Mr. Kevin, or would he have said, I don't think you know what you're talking about. If I have an opportunity for sex, I'm taking, because I don't know when the next one's coming around.
It's so funny because my generation, 1988, 18-year-olds came to a city where our elders weren't there, at that stage in the game, older gay men were mourning the loss of friends. They were going through the AIDS crisis. So the younger generation, when I was young, were kind of on our own and discovering gayness on our own. So it's very interesting nowadays that there's this whole, on the apps have encouraged people to label themselves. The apps have encouraged people to have on your profile just 5 words about who you are. So the whole thing about someone being a daddy or a boy, the younger, older thing, is actually quite popular on the apps. So when I hit my 40s, I was like, I was getting divorced, and I was like, it's all over. And my husband, as he was leaving, he literally handed me the phone, and he was like, check out this thing called Grinder. I think you're going to be popular. And sure enough, that was the case. It's so funny. That's another piece of advice I'd give 18-year-old me. I was always attracted to guys in round about the 20s and 30s, and kind of remained that way in my 50s. So I would tell 18-year-old me, you're a daddy and you don't know it yet. So just relax.
Oh, that's perfect. I want to make sure everybody else has an opportunity to answer the question. Let's throw it over to Reba. Reba Sparrow, advice for your younger self.
I mean, there's so many things. But what's coming up for me right now is I think I would tell myself that it is okay to masturbate. I was one of those early masturbators. I probably started around 4 or 5 years old. And I don't know how I knew that it was supposed to be a secret. Maybe because I never saw or heard of anyone else doing it. And I always felt so much shame around it. And it was one of those things that when I was still very young, I'd say 10 and younger, when I still sort of believed in an abstract God, I guess, that's the thing that I would plea, like, please don't let this thing happen. And I promise that I'll never touch myself in that place again, like trading this bad thing for a good thing. I think that if any adult, which I can't see any adult at that time in my life telling me or educating me about self-pleasure. So I think that would be what I would tell myself. And I don't know, maybe say that like other people do this too. And just because it's private doesn't mean it's shameful. I think I'd go with that.
Would you have, and feel free to draw boundaries here, but like, would you have given little Reba any tips to let her know that you were serious? I'm going more along the lines of like making.
Are you talking about my clitoris? Like, what are you talking?
I really like the idea of trying to convince the younger self that like I know what I'm talking about, and you don't have to get too personal, but like, do you think that you could make her believe you that it is okay to masturbate?
Oh yes, because I would totally be like Biff in Back to the Future, and I'd be like, I know this personal thing about you that nobody could possibly know, like how to drive your car. I would pull one of those.
Okay, you're taking it completely into that area. Nice.